Hello and welcome to Frack The Canon. This is a unusual one because we're talking about movies. We're talking about the man who passed away this Monday. And oh my God, it's already starting. So we're joined with Sarah this time around, as you saw, and as always, CJ McCree from Milwaukee. Sarah, how are you doing? CJ, how are you doing, sir? Okay,
Yeah, I live, I breathe.
this is true. We live, we breathe. Unlike the man who was passed away. So Sarah, you're rocking the Thor.
I am.
You want to talk? You want to start off with your experience with Stan Lee?
With Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I saw him once
Mm-hmm.
in person at Phoenix Comic Con, and he was so funny. Like,
Ooh.
yeah. Like someone came up to ask him a question, and they're like, "Stan, I just love you so much," and he's like, "You have great taste." So he just had quick one-liners. The panel I went to, they had Michael Rooker come out and do a little bit.
We
with
have pictures of that.
Yeah.
Can we play those pictures?
Um,
I'm hearing myself in here. Can we play? Can we show those pictures of? Okay, there we go.
there,
So,
so
yeah.
yeah, so he was there talking about all what he answering fan questions, and I must say I think like at least 80% of the people asking questions were kids, which I thought was great because it's like the younger group,
Right.
like they knew who he was,
Uh-huh.
like even like 5 or 6 year olds.
All right. Okay. CJ, do you want to talk about the man for a minute? I'm hearing myself a little bit. Is you guys hearing it fuzzy in the control room? I'm hearing it fuzzy. I'm hearing myself out here in the studio. That's fine. Okay, cool. We'll keep going. All right, we'll keep it in. That's fine. All right, CJ, let's talk about what your experience was.
Well, I mean, I never met Stan Lee or anything, but I seen him on TV a lot. No, Stan Lee, I thought he was he was a really cool person, like in that he was somebody who was known for doing one thing, but then later in his life, the the notoriety that he gained from doing that one thing, like translated into like this. It made him larger than life almost.
Okay.
Because later in his life, he wasn't like a comic book creator. He was known as Stan Lee. He was known as this personality, basically, that kind of went around like almost akin to like a what William Shatner kind of is.
Okay. Yeah.
Like he was huge because he was Kirk. He hasn't been Kirk for like 60 years or however. I hate math. But like, freaking, but now he's this dude, this guy that like everybody, they just kind of love. They know him. They respect him for who he is, even though like, you know what I mean? I wasn't alive when Star Trek, the original series was, but I still respect Shatner for who he is. It's the same thing with Stan Lee. I love Spider-Man, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
Rocking this Infinity War hoodie here. But I don't love Spider-Man because of Stan Lee, but I appreciate Stan Lee for what he did, for bringing about this kind of this new age of superheroes, old age now.
The
But
Silver Age, if you will.
at the time when he came out, like he kind of ushered in like this new era of what superhero comic.
Oh, we lost the connection. Alrighty, I am going to do this. We'll keep this in. I'm gonna call him right now. This is part of the show. So, Sarah, do you want to talk anything else? You anything you say?
I just Stanley, he's like an icon more than anything. I think he really symbolized, I think, doing what you love, even if it's not the most popular thing, because you'll find people that also like it. Because when he started writing comics, if I remember correctly, they were considered like trashy reading.
Right.
Like they aren't this big thing that they are now, where it's like a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar even like franchise. And he really, like, I think jump started a lot of that. The other thing about him is I'm such a nerd. I play Lego Marvel superheroes, and
I do know this. I don't know why this, but I do know
he's
this.
the only character in the game who is not really like a superhero. I mean, there's like Maria Hill and all that, but like he is the only one that's not like an action star. But you can go and save Stan Lee as a mission.
That's awesome.
I think he just really transcended just being an author of superheroes.
Yeah, he became definitely from. I remember. So first of all, a little update on CJ. So he said he lost his internet connection. So I call him when he can. So CJ is fine. He is not dead. Thank God. I don't know where I'd be without CJ.
That's where you went. Like.
I just like how our inter's on her phone right now. Where was I? So yeah, no, Stan Lee. I remember the first time I heard of Stan Lee was when I got my first X-Men comic book. That's what got me into Marvel Comics. Well, actually the first movie, the first X-Men movie. And I'm like, I need to know more about these people. I'm like, who the frack is it? What the frack is an X-Men? So I'm like, all right, I started watching, and then like, Stan Lee Presents. I'm like, who the frack is Stan Lee? I'm like, Stan Lee Presents. There he is. Stan Lee Presents. And I'm like, all right, fine. I started watching the evolution of the X-Men. I'm like, and how Stan Lee and Jack the King Kirby came in.
Yeah.
And then little by little, we found out that I found out who he was, like what his contribution was to comics in general, but not just comics, but being the founding father of the Silver Age.
Yeah.
Because DC, the Distinguished Competition, they had Batman, they had Superman, they had Wonder Woman, but they were all individual creators.
Yeah.
The X-Men, Spider-Man, not Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Wonder Man is
Don't
not
mix
Stan
it
Lee.
up.
No, I'll mess it up. I'm losing my nerd card. So X-Men, Hulk, Daredevil, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man. It was he created that universe. He made them interact, and that was, I think that's kind of what is not his creation, his imagination. And as you know, I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. They were doing his little thing, so since he's Kevin Smith, whatever. They were saying like, there's no one as prolific as Stan Lee nowadays. He goes, maybe Mark Millar, maybe, but I don't know. CJ, you're I hear that you're back. Your thoughts on that, on the prolificness that was Stan the Man Lee.
Well, I watched that same podcast that you watched, and I had a bit of time to think about that, and it wasn't the prolificness that I dwelled on more so as the subject matter, like the different kinds of heroes that he brought to the table. You know what I mean? In the world that he grew up in the world that he was creating in, we were used to, your Batmans, your Supermans,
Right.
Basically, like you just said, the distinguished competition. The DC universe, you know what I mean? And all of these characters are, they're larger than life, and they're meant to be. Because they, I guess the creators of them, they wanted these heroes to be something more akin to the Greek gods, something that you look up to, something that you aspire to, but you can never really be. Whereas Stan Lee came along and he's like, okay, well, actually, let's tell superhero stories, but about the everyday man then. You know what I mean? Let's do Spider-Man, right? This isn't even about a man, which most heroes of the time were men, or grown men. This is about a boy. Which they thought, wouldn't sell at the time. And not only that, but it's going to be one of the most hated and feared creatures in existence, a spider, right? Like, who is going to buy a comic book starring a teenage boy who has the powers of this gross thing, right? But it turned out to be awesome, right? Everybody loves it. I love it. My mom loves it.
I got that reference. I got that reference. It's a Brooks Institute. It's Phil.
But not only that, like he's laying the groundwork. But see that was different, right?
Right.
But then I look at over here. He moves on to X-Men, right? Which it's in the height of like racial, like civil inequality,
right?
Which the '60s, it was like the hottest button issue ever. In the height of all that, he creates this comic that directly parallels that struggle, right?
Right.
This comic for the disenfranchised, this comic that is like, here are a bunch of people, they are what they are because they are born
Different.
different.
Yep.
And he wasn't afraid to tackle issues like that. I don't know if you like, a lot of things have been popping up on Twitter after Stan Lee died, but one of them was like one of those, what do you call that when they write
Obituaries?
from that? What'd you say?
An obituary?
Not obituary. Like the comic writer, he writes something like to the audience, like at the end of the comic.
Oh, breaking the fourth wall, but I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of It's
well, like, they always have their little comments.
Stan Lee had his Stan Lee soapbox where he would just talk to the reader,
Yeah,
like
have a little blurb.
yeah, but you.
And I saw when he was talking about like that. He was talking about that situation and about like hatred and how he just kind of like lays it on the line like, hey, in the comic books, there's all these villains and stuff, but in real life, it's not so cut and dry. And I know, and be willing to kind of like stare bigotry and hatred in the face and stand up against that, be superheroes in our own right. And I thought that was so profound and so awesome. Like, I never knew that he kind of said stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like, but it totally, made me respect him a lot more and what he was doing in his time, you know what I mean?
And I think he also created Black Panther.
He created Black Panther for the Fantastic Four.
The first like hero on his own as a person of color.
Exactly. He created the first black superhero, and like CJ said, during the Civil Rights Movement. But I want to go back because the X-Men are my favorite superhero. I love the X-Men. The X-Men are what got me into comic books. They're my favorite creation. And then something that he said that was, and I guess it was refined by Chris Claremont, another writer. But I guess what Stan Lee was setting up for, like, the X-Men are a group of people who have sworn to protect a world that fears and hates them. And I was just like, this is the 60s, right? And for him to say that at that time, that day, and it's I don't know if any of you read the old X-Men books that he wrote, and it's very quaint, very like cut and dry, but slowly and surely, like, you see them, like, the people turning, it's the people in the comic book start turning against the X-Men, like, go away, you freak, go away, you mutant, and it's really weird. Something I want to talk about that same podcast that CJ said was that he's interviewing, Kevin Smith's interviewing Joni Lee, his wife.
Oh, yeah.
And she's saying, we're talking about him, like how the Fantastic Four story. And if you don't know that story, is that, which I don't know how you could know the story, but it's Stan thinking about quitting Marvel Comics. And he goes, well, this is your last comic book, write what you want to write. And she came up with the Fantastic Four, like people with troubles or like that. And she sits down and she starts breaking down, starts crying. She goes, I'm tired. Like, everyone thinks about Spider-Man this, Fantastic Four that, Hulk that. He goes, but no one knows the poet that he is. No one knows that he is a writer. Like, he has these my poems he writes for me. And I started tearing up because that's something I would like to see. Like, Stan Lee saved my childhood. Stan Lee saved me. Stan Lee was like, just saved me, because we'll go with that later. But I'm like, that's something more that I would like to see about the man is his poems, and it's.
Well, I think Stan Lee is not his real name.
No, it's not. No,
but he used it when he wrote comics because he wanted to be a serious writer.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's actually he had a fake name as what he became the most famous for.
His pen name, right? Yeah.
Because he wanted to use his real name for writing a novel.
For the great American novel.
Yeah.
But he did write the great American novel to me in Marvel Comics because it's Spider-Man, like, with great power comes great responsibility. Sworn to protect the world, he fears and hates him. Daredevil, I don't know what Daredevil thing is, but I love Daredevil too. All my favorite superheroes are Stan Lee creations. The X-Men, Daredevil, and Spider-Man. I like Batman too, but actually, there's something, so TJ and I showed me.
Thor,
Thor. But Thor is, all right, so let's talk about you. So if you haven't noticed, Sarah's rocking the Thor helmet. She's got a freaking cape right here. Let me see. Ow.
Oh, it doesn't work.
It does. It works. It will make it work. There you go, right there. There's her cape. He created Thor. Like, he was based on mythology.
Norse mythology.
Because again, he was just like, everyone knows the Greek gods, everyone knows the Roman gods. Let's just talk about Norse. Which is, again, he's just like, let's twist it a little bit. Where was I going with this?
I don't know.
Okay. I remember now. So CJ showed me this clip that I totally forgot about. He interviewed Bob Kane, and for those of you who don't know, Bob Kane is the co-creator of Batman. But CJ, do you want to talk about that? Because you're the one that brought it up.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Okay, so I can't even remember how old this is. It's like in Technicolor or something, or 80s color or whatever.
You can tell it's
So
VHS.
it's like I don't know if it was used to be a show or so. Do you know, Renee?
I don't know, but I do know there was. I think it was a Marvel show, but I don't know how it aired. I don't know how it got to people's homes, but it was. He's interviewing Bob Kane, and so the co-creator of
Yeah,
Batman.
so he had this. He would. I guess he interviewed people or something. A friend of mine showed it to me some years ago because he thought I'd be interested in it, and he was right. But it was him interviewing Bob Kane, and like they're kind of shooting the S, you know what I mean, and talking about it's really Stan Lee's kind of picking Bob Kane's brain, and Bob Kane, if you've ever seen him if you've ever seen him I don't know, like on camera or something, he's quite a character, and he just has this, I don't know, is he from New York or something?
Yeah, he's from New York. Yeah, they're all from New York, I think. But
He
yeah.
has that whole swagger to him. He's just this. He's kind of like smooth, kind of like holier than y'all. Like I'm Bob Kane, and I made Batman, and it's
He does talk like that. He does talk like that. He's like very posh, very like.
I did this awesome thing that you'll never be able to do, and but he was like
holier than thou.
But it seemed like they had a good relationship with each other. But Bob Kane certainly did. Like he engaged in a lot of ribbing towards Stan Lee. There's this moment that is so funny, and it's also so it's telling of Stan Lee's character to me. When Stan Lee's like interviewing him, and he's like, you can tell the respect that he has for Bob Kane.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell like that he really admires like what he's done and what he has, and that he's happy to have him on this show with him. And so he asked him to draw Batman for him. And so he does. He pulls out his notebook, and he does like a rendition of Batman, like as there's still the interview's still continuing and he's going on. And when it's finished, Stanley's happy to get it, but he makes a joke at Stanley's expense, like, all right, well, next time, hey, why don't you draw Spider-Man for me now? You know what I mean? Like, as like a joke, because knowing obviously Stanley was the writer, not the artist, you know what I mean? Knowing that he couldn't actually draw Spider-Man. So, he just said that, but, Stan Lee just kind of laughs it off, you know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but I thought that moment was so telling of Stan Lee, like, you know what I mean? For him to kind of, like, just take in a stride, like, even though you're kind of, like, giving me the business right now, like, I still am a fan of you. I still respect you, and I'm still man enough to show that, like, I respect what you're doing. I wanted you on this show for a reason, you know what I mean? Like, regardless of what I've accomplished or not accomplished,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to know? Anything?
I just want to say I find Stan Lee so fascinating because I found out recently that he married his wife. I don't know if you knew this.
Yeah.
They went to Vegas, and she was still married to someone else, and she got a divorce, and then he married her
the
same weekend, and then they were married for
70 years.
Yeah.
Until she died.
Until she died. And I just, to me, he just is such a fascinating person, not just like what he put out there, but like his personal life. Like, who has a story like that? Like,
they do. Yeah, but no, it's
nuts. But it's just also like super, I mean, maybe like a trashy romantic, like, oh, baby, we have to go get a divorce so that we can get married. But I think he kind of wrote how he lived. It was all really real, and even though things are crazy or fantastic, there was always a truth in the middle of it. So.
Yeah, no, it's weird living in a Stanley-less world now.
Yeah.
Just I didn't know who he was until I got the comic books, but that name was still around as a kid, like Stanley. Like even so, I was going down through I just went down a deep Stanley rabbit hole just because I was like, and then I'm like, I forgot that Stanley met Spider-Man in the animated series. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was just like, oh my God, that happened. Something I want to. So I think I might cry. So just be forewarned. So when I met Stanley, because this is like it was 2 years ago. I just want to talk about this because I gotta get it out. just because that's the picture I took. But I remember before that, before I met him, I remember it was a long line. I think I paid $186 for the picture.
Yeah.
But it's Stan Lee. I'm like,
It's expensive,
he is
but
about to
yeah.
die.
Oh my
This was 2 years ago. But I remember I was in line for an hour and a half, and then I'm walking up, and then like, all right, you're next. I'm like, what? And there's like there's just curtains right here, like these curtains. But it felt that was the longest. Like, oh my god, like it took everything in me to get pushed through. But I'm like, all right. I'm like, I had to like, you can. I was so nervous to meet him, Sarah. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure I told CJ this too. I remember I finally pulled through, and he's in front of me like this. He's sitting in that chair, but he turns back and he looks at me. He goes, "Hey, how are you doing, sir?" I'm like, "What's your name?" I'm Renee. I'm like, "I'm a big fan." And he goes, "Nice to meet you. Let's take a picture, huh?" And it was just like he was like, I don't know if it was just tired or whatever, but he was just like he just radiated happiness. So it might be a little bit blasphemous because I'm Catholic, but I've heard the people say when they see the Pope, they feel this calm. I felt this joy coming from him. Like he was my Pope, my meeting the Pope moment. It was like, oh my God, here we go. This is Stan the Man Lee. And I wish I could have some questions, but it was.
I feel like he genuinely loved his fans too. Like sometimes you like Harrison Ford. I feel like when he meets his fans, he's like, I'm meeting this because you want this.
Yeah.
And but I felt like with Stan Lee is that he really loved meeting people and getting to know them as much as he could in the time, and he just loved his fans. I think he really related to them, and
it was.
Is a source of joy for him that people loved what he did.
The only time I had heard any bad thing about Stan Lee was this year's Silicon Valley, and I was there, and I saw him walk by, and he was in a foul mood. You could tell he was in an S mood because it would just. And he looked like he wanted to be there. He was everyone like he is. I think it was a time there was I don't remember that trouble with his daughter.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it was something weird was happening, but that was the only time I've ever heard anything bad about Stan Lee. Everything else has been like he is so great or whatever.
Yeah.
CJ, anything you want to say about the man? I mean, you've never met him. Anything else you would like to add about the man? And that happened. Okay. What was that? Let me see. I'm going to text him right now. Do you want anything you want to say? Oh, my God, look at that. Okay, I think we lost you, CJ. Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. He's calling back. We lost him. Okay. So anything? So what else? So okay, let's talk about this. Is CJ? This is CJ. Are you there? Okay. So my question is if CJ's back, which I don't. He's not back. But okay, I'm gonna ask this and I'll ask it again when I see CJ come back. How do you feel about having his Stan Lee cameos in the Marvel movies now that he's dead? Now that he's passed on.
I'm okay. I feel like it's gonna be. We're gonna miss it. You know, it's like an Easter egg hunt, and. Like if you watch some of the older ones, like the original, I like he's not in some of them. I think he's not in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
God, thank God.
But like he isn't in every single Marvel movie. But it's gonna be sad without him, you know.
See, I feel that I don't want to see any more Stan Lee cameos because I know I'm gonna cry. I'm like, he's dead. He's just.
But when you rewatch the movies, you'll have that same reaction, right?
All right, all right, damn you and your logic, Spock. Any word on the Mr. McCree? No. Negative. Okay. 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 I see. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. So you're on my. CJ's here. CJ's on my phone. That's what happened. Okay, you want to hang up again, buddy, and then call in so that they answer in the control room? Best episode ever. This is worthy of a wave award. All right, he's calling. He's going to call back. He's going to call into that one. That's what happened. I'm a smart one.
You know, the other thing that stood out to me when I saw him was, like the kids asked the same question because they're kids, but so he got asked multiple times what his favorite character was. And
I think he's calling in. All right, sorry.
Yeah, he always would say Spider-Man because that was the one he could most relate to. And if you think about like who Spider-Man is, he's like a kid that doesn't always have his stuff together, and
he was the most human.
Yeah, so like the most relatable maybe of all the superheroes, because he's always trying to figure things out. But he also thinks his powers are really cool.
Yeah.
You know? Like.
CJ, so before we lost you, if you can still hear me, so my question to Sarah was, and to you is do you think with Stanley being dead, should we still have the cameos in the Marvel movies? Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. Okay, I see what happened. I'll be back. Keep talking, Sarah. It's okay. Keep talking, Sarah. Keep talking.
Okay.
Renee, we're 3 minutes.
I don't know what Renee's going to go fix CJ.
Where could you take to?
I don't know. I could show off my really cool shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you get those on
They're
one right
like,
now?
I bought Avengers shoes when they came out with Vans that are disappearing into the green screen. So yeah, is CJ back with us?
CJ is kind of back, but I don't know if he can hear us. Let me text him. Let me see. So, I have no idea what happened. TJ, if you can hear me, say yes or no.
I don't think he
I don't think he can hear me. Alrighty, I'm gonna call him just because this is it. Here we go. All right, this is what's gonna happen. 2 minutes. CJ, we're calling you in. We can see you, we can hear you, but I guess you can't hear us. So we'll do this. We'll do it like this.
Oh, you can hear me fine?
Yeah, we'll do it like this. Like, we can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Only through the phone.
All right, well, we're doing it like this then. The show must go on, regardless. All right, so my question was to Sarah before we lost you was, do you think they should still have the Marvel Stanley cameos in the Marvel movie? We have 2 minutes left, so this will be it.
I mean, why not, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's his. Every Marvel movie is his baby, essentially.
This is
So,
true.
like, if they filmed him, it's like, why not have him in there? You know what I mean? That's what he would have wanted.
True. What I said, I want to be sad because now I know he's dead. But Sarah, and using your Spock like logic, was like, well, when are you gonna do that? When you see him anyways? I'm like, okay, fine. CJ.
When you rewatch the movies, I don't know about you, but I don't watch them just once.
No, me neither. I don't. I do watch them multiple times. Touche.
I mean, even if you're gonna be sad, I mean, it's not like you haven't seen Infinity War. I mean, come on.
This is true. This is true. All right. Well, this is an impromptu one. I wasn't expecting this one, but we'll definitely be back. I don't think this year. I think maybe next year we'll come back.
Bumblebee?
I will be in Mexico. But we'll do Bumblebee. You want to do Bumblebee?
I would love to do Bumblebee.
All right, CJ, you want to do Bumblebee?
How about Into the Spider-Verse?
Oh, yeah, also. Okay, but yes, but we will do this. Okay, bye, guys. And then cut the audio. Mike, okay, bye. Hold on.